Time now for the most listened to talk show in Vegas. Talking with those on the right, the left, and everywhere in between. It's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
I hate everything about this Brian Shapiro guy.
This show will make you laugh, make you cry, and it might raise Brian's blood pressure.
You know what, dude? People like you, all you do is make excuses for the orange turd, and I've had it.
Buckle up because it's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
You're different. I like you.
Now, here's Brian.
All right, what's going on, everybody? A very happy Presidential Debate Tuesday to you all. Good afternoon. We have a lot to get to today and a lot to talk about, including, of course, a preview of tonight's presidential debate. A guy who moderated presidential debates in the past from the Nevada Independent. Have so much respect for him. Jon Ralston is going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour. Of course, this debate will be taking place in Philadelphia. And thank you so much for being here. You could be listening, of course, on the Occupy Democrats Network Facebook page, the Washington Press page. You could be on my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show, on Twitch. We're on X. We're on YouTube. We are everywhere. And, of course, the FM AM dial, KSHP. We've learned a few new things before I get to our first guest. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will officially be in Philadelphia tonight as a surrogate for Donald Trump. Again, this is the same guy who said he had literally nothing in common with Donald Trump. But now all of a sudden he's the surrogate for Donald Trump. So take that for what you will. On the other side of things, a good friend of this show and a friend of mine, Anthony Scaramucci, and Miss Troy, will be who used to work for Mike Pence, will be holding a joint press conference before this debate, warning people the dangers that Donald Trump is to this country, if you don't already know, by the way. So looking forward to that as well. But without further ado, to preview this debate, and we will be taking calls in hour number 2, but to preview this debate, my friend Grant Stern from Occupy Democrats joining us right now. Grant, always good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me on, Brian. You hear me okay there?
What's that?
Hear me okay?
You're a little low, but you're okay. Yeah, maybe jump.
There you go.
Perfect. There you go. Good to see you, Grant, as always.
Yeah, you too.
Is it fair to say, because I said this a couple months ago for that debate with Biden and Trump, I think this is more anticipated than that one. I think this is the highest anticipated debate in our lifetime. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I think that the anticipation level is very high. I mean, we have, on the one hand, this old liar who lies at a very, very fast pace, and he's done 7. I think he's actually going to set the record for most modern presidential debates by a candidate. Of course, he's also got a big opportunity to set the record that will probably never be broken for most popular vote losses by a candidate. But yeah, so you got Trump, and then you've got Kamala Harris, a prosecutor, someone with an intense intellect, decades of experience serving the United States, her only client, the people. There's a big contrast on stage between the fraudster and the law, the con and the DA. I mean,
yes, a lot of big fundamental differences between the two. I want to ask you about, first of all, there's going to be no crowd. We know that. We also understand that the microphones will be turned off. Now, I think that was something that probably you would think would have benefited Joe Biden. We all know how that went down. But, I spoke to some of Harris's campaign people, and we had one of them on the show last week, and they said, no, we wanted the mics to be on all the time so people could hear Donald Trump and the nasty man that he is. I'm paraphrasing here. But what do you make of that? The microphones will be turned off. There will be no interruptions tolerated.
So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, The fact that the microphone's not turned off means that everything Kamala says, he's not going to have any chance to respond to.
Mm-hmm.
The flip side is the same applies to her. So, I mean, I think it creates this odd dynamic where they're going to be talking at each other but not with each other, right? But I'm going to tell you right now, the most important thing I think about this, and this is just from a debate perspective, this is not about who's right, wrong, qualified or not. We all know who's not qualified to be the president. We all have seen this, reality TV show before, and it's just on a rerun right now. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to debating, it's not all about the words being spoken or who's good or bad. It's about the theater of it. And the theater of it is that if Kamala Harris makes good eye contact with the camera, and ignores her opponent while she delivers her lines, and considers the camera her audience, period, end of story, and ignores Donald Trump, I think she'll be very successful. If she gets drawn into a discussion with a guy whose mic is muted while she's talking,
Yeah,
it's
that's
going
not
to
a good
be
look. Yeah.
it's not a good look. But also, if you go back and look at Joe Biden's debate performance, it was the body language that said as much as anything else.
Mhm.
If you read the transcript of it, it was just fine. All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is not a, I mean, it's performative, but other than that, there's not much to it. I mean, there's not a lot of people that really want the Donald Trump agenda. If they were to find it out, they'd probably all run screaming, at least a certain
Oh, no doubt.
block of his voters.
I agree with that, Grant. But let's play the role here of your Kamala Harris tonight. You know that Donald Trump is going to call you the border czar. You know that Donald Trump is going to blame you for gas prices and inflation. Listen, people like you and me, we debate these kinds of people every day with facts when it comes to inflation and when it comes to the border, right? We're used to doing that every day. But if you're Kamala Harris on the debate stage tonight, you're going to have to answer to this. Trump is going to attack you for all the problems in this country. A lot of those problems, by the way, that Trump and his administration created themselves. What would be your response to that? You know, if he calls, says, you're the border czar, what do you think Harris should say in return?
Honestly, she's got to put forward her platform first in every single answer, then contrast with what Donald Trump's record is. And she knows Donald Trump's record. She was there. She was in the Senate. Okay. Yeah, we lived through these news cycles and they stuck, at least for people like me, like Kamala. People are really locked in and focused on this. And that's frankly what you have to be able to recall to hold these debates. I mean, just think about this. Kamala Harris's staff said it used to be kind of intimidating because if they brought something forward to her, she would know everything about what's in all of the footnotes and ask them questions about it, right? So I think we have someone who's got a really tremendous recall for all of these things that have gone by and understands Donald Trump's record on the big issues, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, that she's got a contrast and then at the end, pivot back to presenting her platform for the future, because this is what people said the most about the first debate. And it wasn't that Joe did bad or that Donald Trump did good. It was that nobody discussed the issues they were interested in that debate. So she's got an open mic and she could say anything she wants. Everybody's on mute and listening to her. She's got to put forward the message, the contrast, and the future.
What are your biggest concerns when it comes to Harris tonight? You alluded to it a little bit. You don't want to get into a discussion with Donald Trump.
Not at all.
Yeah, you don't want to do that, which, by the way, I completely 100% agree with you on. Do you have any concerns at all? For me, from my perspective, she's a former prosecutor. She's smart. I thought she did a good job against Mike Pence. She has the experience. I'm not too concerned, other than what you just said. Don't go down in the weeds with Trump. But I mean, other than that, do you have any other concerns?
I mean, a pig wants to take you to the mud, down to their level, and then beat you with experience.
Right.
You know, and of course, there's the whole when we go, you know, they go low, we go high. No. That's not what should be happening here. You have to go on offense, then hit them with how bad it was when Trump was in office, and then back on offense. I mean, getting drawn into his terms, it's like a basketball game, right? The competition isn't just to score the most points, but to get your team to play your kind of basketball and get the other team to be forced to play that way too. If you're an up-tempo team that runs and guns, you want to make sure that there's as many shots taken as possible. Right. And if you're a team that plods and grinds, you want to make sure there's as few a number of shots as possible.
Right. That makes sense. Yep.
Well, I mean, if she's going to play like Caitlin Clark, she's going to hit him from outside, right? And then she's going to pass to her teammate as much as possible, Joe Biden, who did a lot of great things that she helped do in office, especially the Inflation Reduction Act. So
they could definitely run on their policies. I agree with you there, Grant. But if
well, the
there's
results are improving too. I don't know if you saw, but Bloomberg reported that last month there was the largest single percentage drop in the price of groceries in American history. It was a rate of 44% annually. Groceries dropped over 3% in a month over month.
No question.
July to August.
We can talk about that, and they could run on their record. But if there was one thing that you say, boy, Harris needs to really hit this home and nail this,
it's not
what would that one thing be?
It's the opposite. Don't be over prepared. Be loose. Be ready for anything, and take your time. Don't rush. Don't stammer, but don't rush. Do not rush. This is a situation where she's probably got a couple of good one-liners that are ready to go, a couple of good zingers. Right. She's got a huge staff to break down all the debate film and see Donald Trump's weaknesses and strengths and, analyze what he did and be prepared to create one of those viral moments. But the biggest risk for her is just the unknowables of political theater, which is that any moment could be latched onto and turned into a meme. Right. And so you just don't know, and you can't prepare for those. So the best thing to do is literally not worry so much about them. Just understand the range of behavior that you're going to exhibit in this very stylized political debate. It's like kabuki theater, but with policy.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Well,
I like that.
Let's make up for Kamala. I mean, the other guy.
Yeah. Well, if you're just joining us, by the way, he is Grant Stern with the Occupy Democrats Network. Of course, the big presidential debate tonight between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. So, Grant, I want to ask you this. It is a serious question. I raised it yesterday to a conservative Republican, Trump supporter, and now I'm going to ask you. I put this on social media yesterday, got a lot of comments from it. I'm not saying this is going to happen tonight, but I'm giving you a hypothetical. Just say Donald Trump slips up big time, calls her the N-word. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but a hypothetical. What percentage of Donald Trump's base do you think would still support him if something like that happened today? Because I've heard some Republicans that just won office, like Royce White, who played in the NBA. He's a staunch Republican, and he said Donald Trump, literally, he said Trump could drop trow and urinate on the stage tonight, and he would still support Trump. What percentage of people would still support Donald Trump no matter what he says, even something that disgusting?
I mean, dude, they would all fly down to Guyana and drink Kool-Aid with him after that. All of them. I mean, I don't think there's any movement in the MAGA base, no matter what he does tonight, although they may cry a lot. But that's not where the election battleground is really won. I think there's three areas actually, where this is going to be won. I mean, you're talking about base turnout, number one, first and foremost. Can Democrats turn out their base? Can Republicans turn out their base? I'm going to tell you right now, Republicans literally canceled their ground game. They canceled it. They spent years building up a ground game, not just throughout where they're already popular, but in Hispanic communities in particular. And they closed all of that when Laura Trump took over the RNC. Yeah. Base turnout, it's going to be interesting to see. I was on MSNBC, I was on Newsmax thinking about MSNBC. No, I was on Newsmax, and it was like I got encountered with this surreal experience that I posted about on X and, of course, Instagram and whatnot, where they actually played the entire Donald Trump digital trading cards video, and they said it was a get out the vote operation. So that's one battleground, right? And on the flip side of that is that Republicans need to make sure they have the highest possible evangelical turnout. Right. Without a really full turnout from evangelical voters, they're not going to make it. Donald Trump's biggest weakness right now is the position on abortion because of those voters in the base. Right,
which he's gone back and forth on. We all know he's the reason why Roe was overturned. And we also know that recently he said 6 weeks isn't long enough. You need to make it longer for women to make a decision on whether they want an abortion or not. He's gone back and forth on this.
The religious position on this is life at conception, okay? No IVF. He just said IVF for everybody. It's socialism and it's baby creation. I mean, it's not a thing that his base is really into. So that's one area. Women, I think that we understand that in general, a lot of women are going to vote their conscience in the ballot box and not their party this time around.
Yeah.
Look at the brouhaha you just mentioned over Florida's Amendment 4. That was a strategic weapon because it forced Donald Trump to take a position. Okay. And then the last place is your low information voters on both sides. I would say of any party's base or any group of voters that votes for one party or the other traditionally, about 10% of them don't follow this stuff until they cast a vote in the next 2 months.
Correct. Speaking of not following things, or maybe some people are and they don't have the facts. Changing the subject here real quickly, I got to get your thoughts on this. I mean, this was wild yesterday. You have J.D. Vance tweeting out that illegals are going to be eating your pets.
Okay. Enough lies. J.D. Vance hates Haitian people. Haitian people are from Haiti. They are mostly black. Not all, but they're of French descent. I have a lot of clients, friends. One of my attorneys who's helping me in a lawsuit, they're all Haitian, actually, two attorneys, and they're wonderful people. I mean, Haitian Americans, people that have emigrated here and pull themselves up from their bootstraps and work really hard, or those who are the sons and daughters of Haitian immigrants. As a whole, I mean, they get ahead, man. They get ahead. They are one of the hardest working groups of people you'll find. I mean, so many of them become professionals working in medicine. I mean, here in Miami, it's almost like a cliche that your nurse is going to be Haitian because there's so many Haitians that go into the nursing profession and then advance through it. And I know several nurses of Haitian descent, and I mean,
they're wonderful people. But Grant, the question
very educated too, very educated folks.
But the question is, it goes even further than J.D. Vance. We expect this from this misogynistic pig. But you look at all the MAGA Republicans that were retweeting it yesterday, elected officials like Jim Jordan and Ted Cruz and so many others. Mike Collins, that guy, if he hasn't had a tough week already. I mean, what do you make of the entire MAGA right that seemed to be going with what J.D. Vance said yesterday? It's mesmerizing to me.
Gee, man. Well, somebody had to take over for Tenet Media. Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're just pushing the Russian line. That's all they've got. They've become this Russia-aligned party. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. There's really nothing I can I mean, that's it. Like you saw the Putin talking points. Putin's talking points are to divide America on along the exact lines Republicans want to divide Americans. And look, I mean, back in the Cold War era, you had communism and socialism and things like that. Today, the debate is different. The Russian position is traditionalism. Just think about what that means. Religion and religious politics. And I mean, there's never was a separation between church and state in Russia until it became the Soviet Union. And now the consensus in Russia is that ending the Soviet Union, which was an empire, it was a territorial empire. They dominated other independent states and governed them, and then had a sphere of influence beyond that they called the shots into. You know, the Soviets had separation of church and state, but the Soviets basically co-opted the Russian church. And today, and for the last 25 years, the Russian church has been an agent of the state, right? But you think about like all the sweep of history. You hear things like Holy Roman Empire. I mean, religious empires used to be the empires of the European, continent. And that's what the agenda is. These people are just moving on from one host for it to another. I mean, traditionalism is their playbook, right? People are like, why are they putting this and that? They all seem so disparate. But there's one central theme. It is the traditionalist framework, and it's Russia's framework. They created these ideas.
Yeah, I think if you or I were offered $400,000 a month, we'd probably ask a lot of questions. But yet Poole and Benny Johnson and these guys, they're going to be claiming, oh, well, we didn't know it was from Russia. We just thought a nice company here in America offered to pay us almost $500,000 a month just to keep doing what we were doing. Do they really think that we're this stupid?
I'll tell you what, man. I had a really sweet gig where we got paid $2,500 an episode for one episode a week. So we got paid $10,000 a month. These guys made 40 times that. Their audience isn't 40 times bigger.
For one video.
It's crazy.
Video. Yeah.
Oh, no. They had to make $400,000 for 16 videos.
So over time. Okay, fair enough. Well, I got to tell you.
It's an extreme amount of money because when you're in this space, you know how much there is in advertising, which is basically like, for a few people that have a really great audience and a very small production team, it's a healthy living. But for most people that are in the creator space, it's like, I hope you have a day job. And I'm certainly one of those people. I mean, the amount of money that they were making in a month probably exceeded what I've made in the last decade working with Occupy. I don't do this because I'm, hopping on a private jet and living in a big mansion in Pinecrest. I'm like, hey, good thing I got all my dental health care taken care of because, the other stuff is a little pricey.
No doubt.
I mean,
and
it's insane what these guys did.
Yeah, we're also not taking flights on Jeffrey Epstein's former private jet either. We do know one orange man that'll be on the debate stage tonight that took that jet
only
a month
one,
ago.
Yes, only one.
Grant, you are the best, my friend. Love what you guys do at Occupy. Always appreciate the time, and I can't wait to hear your commentary on this.
We love having you on the network, and I can't wait for you to launch the audio podcast to your viewers. It's going to be exciting.
Yes, absolutely, my friend, and I can't wait to hear, as I said, your commentary on the debate tonight. Grant Stern from Occupy Democrats. Always good to see you, my friend. Love what you guys do, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thank you, Grant. Appreciate you.
Take care.
All right, that's Grant Stern, everybody. Enjoy having him on the program and getting his perspective. Look, if you're just joining us, we're previewing the debate coming up here in a few minutes. Jon Ralston, who has debated presidential debates before, or I should say moderated. He didn't debate. He moderated a presidential debate right here in Las Vegas. So if there's anybody that knows a thing or two about these types of presidential debates, it's Jon Ralston, who was one of the moderators. He's going to be joining us from the Nevada Independent coming up here in just a few minutes. Great guy, a great journalist, and wonderful at what he does. We have learned a few more details tonight in regards to who's going to be speaking before, who's going to be speaking after. We also know that Donald Trump won the virtual coin toss. What does that mean? Well, most importantly, it does mean he's going to have the final word tonight. But Harris was able to say that she's going to be on the right. Trump's going to be on the left, and which is interesting, right? Because when you look at the political parties they're in, it would be the opposite. But we know that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I bring up that name again, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will be in Philadelphia tonight as a surrogate to Donald Trump. This is a man who said basically he wanted nothing to do with Donald Trump a year ago, said that they have nothing in common and that he would never agree to be on the same ticket as Trump. Incredible. On the flip side of things, a few people that worked for Donald Trump, even though for Anthony Scaramucci, it was a very short period of time. That means he's a smart guy. I respect him for that. So the Mooch and others will be speaking in a press conference before the debate tonight, including Troy, who I believe if I'm not mistaken, she worked for Mike Pence. They'll be holding a press conference before the debate tonight, right before the debate, talking about the dangers that Donald Trump presents to this country if he is reelected. So that is what is going to be happening there. The Trump campaign has previewed some of the lines of attack that Trump is likely to deploy tonight, arguing that Harris owns everything from this administration. Meanwhile, the Trump officials who now say they support Harris, as I mentioned, will be doing this press availability. As I mentioned earlier, there will be no audience. The candidates' microphones will be muted when it's not their turn to speak, and they will not be allowed to have notes. So there will be no notes on the stage at all. We also know that Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance will also hit the spin room today after the debate. So the coverage before, the coverage during, and the coverage after will be must-see TV if you're a political junkie like I am. And it's going to be very, very interesting. Before we take a break, we have, as I mentioned before, Jon Ralston from The Independent is going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. We're going to take a break. Before I do so, this is a independently owned radio show. What does that mean? We're kind of like public radio, public TV, and they ask for donations, those sorts of things. But here's what you can really do to help me out and help this show out. Check out our new website. It's pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live. Go on there, look around, sign up for the free newsletter. We sell merchandise up there. You can shop on there. We sell shirts, hats, beanies, you name it. And if you don't want to buy any merchandise, that's totally cool. We do have a donation button on the front page there. You'll see if you want to donate, be a part of the show. It doesn't matter, $5, $10, $20, whatever you can afford. We greatly appreciate it, and you'll hear from me directly as a thank you for supporting what we do here at Pushing the Limits. We are going to take a quick break. Check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. We will be back in 90 seconds. And joining us, Jon Ralston from the Nevada Independent. Be back right after this. It's Pushing the Limits. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on Presidential Debate Tuesday. Yes, that's right. Probably the most anticipated debate in my lifetime tonight. Harris and Trump will be in Philadelphia tonight. I believe, if memory serves me right, it starts at 6 p.m. our time on the West Coast, PST time. And so pretty late, actually, starting on the East Coast. But I figured what better person to bring on today than someone who has moderated a presidential debate in the past and somebody that knows a thing or two about how these debates work. And I absolutely love his stuff at the Nevada Independent. They do such a wonderful job, and I have so much respect for Jon Ralston, who's nice enough to join us on a very busy news day. Jon, always a pleasure having you on the show, my friend. How are you?
Thanks for having me back, Brian. Always good to see you.
Appreciate it, Jon. I guess the first question I would ask you is, would you agree with me that this probably is the most anticipated presidential debate of our lifetime?
Well, your lifetime has been a lot shorter than mine, but the truth is that you're probably right about that. It is probably the most consequential debate since June of this year.
Yeah.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
But there have been some other highly anticipated debates, but because of the president dropping out of the race, the vice president just jumping into the race, she and Trump have never met either on TV or anywhere else. And the stakes, I think the stakes are very, very high, especially for her.
Agree. Now, as I mentioned, you moderated presidential debates before. Do you feel like the moderators should fact check if Trump does say something, or Harris, that are completely factually inaccurate? They didn't do that at that CNN debate, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, and they've been criticized for that. Do you think that criticism is fair? How would you handle it if Trump just says he won the 2020 election as an example? Would you say anything as a moderator?
Well, I have a different view of this than some others, Brian, including Jake and Dana, both of them, by the way, I respect as journalists. But I really do think that the moderator's job is to guide the discussion and know when a discussion of a certain topic is over. Let the candidates go back and forth. That's what a debate is. But if obvious lies are told, the moderator needs to jump in and say that's not true. But that means the moderators have to be very, very well prepared, because there have been instances when moderators have tried to jump in and haven't had it exactly right. It's a very, very difficult job to moderate a debate. You really have to listen carefully, be on your toes. But I just don't agree with people who say that the moderators are just supposed to be potted plants asking questions. They're there, they're chosen because they're journalists. And so they should have a grounding in this stuff. They should have studied the issues and be ready to fact check.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Jon. I remember I was a moderator of a gubernatorial debate here in Nevada several years ago. And I think 8 out of the 12 people that were there were asked, do you think Trump won the 2020 election? 8 out of 12 said yes. As the moderator, I interjected and I said, for the record, there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome of the election. And I was getting booed left and right by everybody there. Get out of there. That's an opinion. No, it's not. It's a fact. There's a difference between an opinion and a fact. Right, Jon?
100% correct. And the one that you're talking about, that lie sticks in my craw. And I think Trump should be asked about it by every journalist every time he's interviewed. And we should be unrelenting about that. Just today, I don't know if you saw it, Brian, but J.D. Vance, there's a clip going around. It's going to be viral where he said that he would not, as Mike Pence did, have certified the 2020 election and would have sent it back to the states, allowed them to submit alternate electors, and as he put it, ask the country to debate who won. I mean, that's insanity. It's also extra constitutional. And so, but the fact that so many journalists have let that kind of stuff go since 2020 is why so many people actually believe Trump when he says it. The people who have abdicated their responsibility are, number one, the so-called Republican leaders who bent the knee and didn't contradict him. And number two, journalists who did not relentlessly pursue this lie every single time he was interviewed. I know that's not popular. People will say people care more about the economy or immigration or healthcare. That's fine. But character matters. And this fundamental character flaw needs to be exposed every time.
Jon, if somebody said to you 10 years ago that we'd be 2 months upon a presidential election and one candidate, if she loses, will concede, and the other candidate, it seems under no circumstances, will concede, would you have believed that?
Well, I would after 2020. I mean, he hasn't even conceded the 2020 race, right?
Right.
And what I really love, Ryan, I don't want to get too much off topic, it's your show, but is that the whataboutism by the MAGA types and the Trump supporters? Well, Hillary raised questions about Russian influence, and Hillary conceded the next day. She didn't ask her supporters to go to the Capitol and have a violent insurrection. So, and that stuff should be called out too when it is said, and Trump might try to do that. I actually hope they ask Trump about that, or I hope Harris brings it up tonight. They've got the fresh clip of Vance saying this. And the bottom line is the moderator's job there is to tell Trump, answer the question. As you just put it, Brian, there is no evidence that the election was stolen. And so I think that should be pursued.
Agree, 150%. If you're just joining us again, he's Jon Ralston from the Nevada Independent. He moderated a presidential debate right here in Las Vegas not that long ago. John, what do you make of the rules here? First of all, there's going to be no audience, as we know, which I'm totally fine with. The microphones are going to be turned off. That's something that back the Biden campaign wanted, but then the Harris campaign, and I had one of Harris's surrogates on this show, they said they wanted the mics on because they wanted Trump to show America again that he's rude and he interrupts. But my thought is, don't people already know that? If you don't know that by now, then oh boy. But what do you make of the rules? Who do you think it benefits? Who do you think it hurts, if anybody?
Well, I mean, the muted microphone thing is another one of my pet peeves. I think certainly having them muted helps Trump because he will be yelling stuff, but you'll still be able to hear him on Harris's mic, so you'll know he's doing something. But the fact that here we are in the year 2024 with two people running for the most powerful position on the planet, and we have muted their mics. A news organization is muting their mics because one of them might yell at the other one during or there might be crosstalk. How embarrassing is that, Brian? That's what I think. No matter who it would benefit, CNN should have just said, well, no, we're not muting mics. We would never mute mics. That's ludicrous. And it's the same with ABC. They should never have agreed to it.
Completely agree with you. That's a really good point. So looking ahead at this debate tonight, what do you think Harris needs to nail down? What should be at the top of her priority list, and vice versa? What would you say in regards to Donald Trump?
I think the conventional wisdom, which I agree with in this case, Brian, is that Trump's not going to pick up any votes no matter what he does. He's going to be Trump. If people think they're suddenly going to see some policy wonk up there discussing the ins and outs of the gross domestic product, that's not going to happen. So I don't think Trump can gain much. Harris is still too much of an unknown quantity to too many people, and her job is to persuade them that she can be trusted, that she's a steady hand, and that she can stand up to Trump and point out his failings. That's a tall order. She was not a good candidate in 2019 when she briefly ran for president. I didn't think that her performance in that CNN interview that occurred a few weeks ago was so overwhelmingly great. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it was terrible, but she's also going to have to answer questions to people's satisfaction. Why did you say this in 2019? What made you change your mind? Do you still feel the same way? Are you a progressive or are you a moderate? Now, those labels may be relatively meaningless, but you can use certain issues to try to flesh those out. And she's got to show that she can handle tough questions. I assume the moderators are going to ask her some tough questions. So I think there's a big opportunity here for her to either take advantage of or lose.
Yeah, I agree. You guys have covered, polls, particularly here in the state of Nevada, where obviously Joe Biden was trailing Donald Trump by a large margin. And then all of a sudden Harris takes over, and all of a sudden it seemed like it swayed a little bit. It seems to be going back and forth now. It seems to be very tight. Can you give anybody an update, at least when it comes to Nevada, on the latest polls that you have seen?
Yeah, I don't trust most polls, as you and I have talked about before in Nevada. Very difficult state to poll, and it's gotten even more difficult, Brian, because of this explosion of non-major party voters. What percentage of the electorate will they make up? No poll is as good is only as good. A poll is only as good as the electoral model they have, matching what actually happens in November. So having said all that, there are trends that matter, and you mentioned the trend. Trump was up outside of the margin of error over Biden. Now every poll is within the margin of error in Nevada. And I don't think you can say which way it leans right now. It's still too early. Tonight's going to be very big. Something else is going to happen, and then something else, and the polls are going to move a little. But ultimately, it's going to be about, it's the oldest cliche, who turns out to vote. The Democratic machine here has consistently done well since 2008. Their major loss coming last cycle, it's an off year when Joe Lombardo eked out a victory over Steve Sisolak. I would still argue that they were lucky to get that close because Sisolak had so much baggage from COVID and from a perceived scandal with a donor friend's son's getting a COVID testing contract.
Right.
If it's still even going into the election, which, by the way, the election starts in a few weeks with mail ballots and then early voting. If the Democratic machine it can do what it usually does, I think Harris will be favored, but it's still too early to tell. And I'll know a lot more once we start seeing the first votes being cast.
And John, not to bring up a bunch of different issues, we know they're going to be talking about abortion. They're going to be talking about the border, but gun control is going to be a big issue. As you know, right in our backyard here in Las Vegas, the biggest mass shooting in American history, a tragedy. And then we have this school shooting that takes place. And yet the governor in that state of Georgia doesn't want to talk policy. I would imagine gun control is going to be a big issue to be talked about tonight, among other issues. But what are your thoughts on this, where it's the same old story from those on the far right, where now's not the time to talk about it? Well, then when is? And I would imagine this will be a big topic tonight.
Yeah, it might be. Gun control is a very difficult issue in Nevada because while you mentioned the tragedy here, Nevada's the West. It's still, people love their guns here in Nevada, especially in rural Nevada, but even in the cities. And even may he rest in peace, Harry Reid played footsie with the NRA for many years. Wanted to have a good rating from them because he knows the power of the NRA. But I do believe, again, if Harris has to get some moderate voters into her camp, there are people who are gun owners, I know, who think that common sense gun control, whatever that means to whoever's talking about it, makes some sense. So I think it's a very difficult needle to thread. I don't believe that it's why a lot of people are going to make their decisions in this race. I think people who are super pro-gun, pro-NRA are going with Trump. They're never going to go with Harris. Yeah,
I tend to agree there. All right, last question about the debate tonight. If you had to nail down one thing that Harris must do tonight, and vice versa, even though I agree with what you said about Trump, not like he's going to get any new voters tonight, but let me just focus on Harris with you. The one thing that she has to do tonight, what would that be, John, in your opinion?
I know this is a cliche and it's hard to describe, Brian, but I'd say she has to look presidential. She has to look like a leader. She can be the happy warrior that she's been throughout the campaign since she took over at the top, but she needs to look like she has the substance and gravitas. Unfortunately, because of the world we live in, women are perceived differently too, and there's a lot of sexism and misogyny, even just in perception. So women often have to go the extra mile in this. So I do think that she knows what she's getting into. She knows that she has to withstand that. And I think that is the big hurdle for her to get over. I think she also needs to show that she's not willing to let Trump give her his misogynistic / racist crap, and that she will get back at him. I assume that at most debate preps, they have zingers that they prepare the candidates with to set the other candidate off. And Trump's a powder keg. And so she will fire, I would guess.
Before I let you go, John, one local story that obviously has become a national story. I just want to get your take on this. Some new information when it comes to Michelle Fiore, who I've been warning about for years. And now it seems like prosecutors are presenting more evidence claiming that she stole hundreds of thousands of dollars, what they are claiming, from donors, not just 10 or 20 grand for the statue. What do you make of this and the new revelations that prosecutors have released?
Well, I haven't seen the actual evidence, Brian, but I got to tell you, Michelle Fiore's lived on the edge ever since I first started covering her a long time ago. And it would seem, based on what I've read and what my reporters have gathered from the evidence, that the prosecutors have the receipts. Really, all they need to prove is that she misled people into contributing for a statue that had already been funded, and that she diverted the money for her personal use.
Mhm.
I assume that they wouldn't have indicted her unless they had those receipts.
Yep.
And if they do, I think any of her "I'm being prosecuted because for political reasons" nonsense will not help her.
Yeah. Yet in Pahrump, they give her a job and they give her a position of power, mainly because Donald Trump wrote a letter endorsing her. So I think that speaks volumes to the people that make those decisions. John, I want to give you the opportunity. I love what you guys do at the Nevada Independent, and I can't wait for your coverage tomorrow on this debate. Can you give out the information to our listeners out there? Because it really is one of the best publications. Real journalism is hard to find these days, non-biased. So give out that information, how people can donate and get involved with the Nevada Independent, please, sir.
I appreciate your saying that, Brian. I always appreciate your support of the Indy. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. You can give to us and deduct it from your taxes. It's NevadaIndependent.com. You can follow us on Twitter. I still call it Twitter, Brian, in defiance of Elon.
Yeah.
At DNV Indy. But check it out. Check it out. Don't just automatically donate. Check it out. And if you like what you see, please just give us a few bucks every month.
Yeah, no doubt. You won't be getting $400,000 a month from Russia, though, right, John? That's not happening anytime soon.
Can I comment on that, Brian?
Sure, please do. Yeah.
No, I said I can't comment. I'm joking.
Oh, you can't? Oh, okay. I thought you said, can I comment? I was like, go ahead. Yeah, 400 grand a month. That's a nice chunk of change for spreading Russian propaganda. Anyway, John, appreciate your time on such a busy day, as always. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend. Thank you.
Pleasure. Keep doing what you're doing, Brian.
Appreciate that, John. That means a lot. Thank you so much. That's Jon Ralston, everybody. Love having him on. A ton of credibility. The Nevada Independent, they are a phenomenal source of information, non-biased. Please check them out. And of course, John moderated a debate here in Las Vegas not that long ago. So if there's anybody that knows what they're talking about when it comes to a presidential debate, it'd certainly be a guy that moderated one of them, in Jon Ralston. And we appreciate his time. I do want to open up the phone lines, and I will get to that. That's 702-221-7283. Again, that number to call, 702-221-7283. And we will be taking calls here in a few minutes. I do want to play a little bit of audio for you first, though, because, there are plenty of people on the far right that are preparing you in case Donald Trump doesn't have a good debate. They did the same thing in the CNN debate with Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. One of those people is Sean Hannity. Yes, that right-wing boob went on his show last night talking about ABC bias. They did the same thing with CNN. And then all of a sudden, Dana Bash and Jake Tapper did a really good job. They weren't biased at all. In fact, some people could say they favored Trump more than Biden in that debate. But you didn't hear any retractions. You didn't hear any apologies. Sean Hannity now. Listen to what Sean Hannity is saying about ABC News. And he brings up their tanking stock price. Have a listen to this.
Maybe Bob Iger and his left-wing heir apparent, maybe they don't want half the country to attend their theme parks. Maybe they don't care about their tanking stock price, which is their prerogative. They're free to make that choice. But if they are biased against Donald Trump, as they have been leading into tomorrow night, as their nightly newscast is, half the country is not going to like it one bit. They're not going to like ABC Disney one bit either.
Yeah, there you go. Attacking ABC, doing the same thing he did with CNN. This is par for the course for these on the far right. So listen, the bottom line here is that I'm sure ABC will do a fine job. They will do their job, and the candidates will decide who scores political points, who doesn't. Listen, it could be a draw. It might not move the needle one bit. I do think, and I agree with Jon Ralston, I think that probably this is a little bit more important for our vice president than to Donald Trump. We all know who Donald Trump is. We all know what he's going to do tonight on the stage. We are waiting to see what Kamala Harris does. This isn't her first rodeo. As a former prosecutor, she ran for vice president on the ticket with Joe Biden. She did a fine job against Mike Pence. What do I expect? I think she is going to do a fine job. I don't think there'll be any clear-cut winners tonight, but I think Harris will be able to hold her own, and I think she will do just fine. And I expect her performance possibly to be better than any Hillary Clinton performance back in 2016. But that's why they have these debates. That's why they play the game. We'll have to wait and see what happens on that, and then go from there. All right. With that being said, I promised you I would take some phone calls. So why don't we do that now? The number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283. Let's go to Al first. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Hi, Al. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. Thanks for taking my call. And I want to say that, I think it's going to be, Kamala will get crushed. I think all Trump's got to do is Tulsi Gabbard on her. Tulsi Gabbard just annihilated her, sticking to policy. And all of these pundits that are saying that Trump is not going to pick up new voters don't know what they're talking about. Trump is going to pick up a lot of new voters.
How did Tulsi Gabbard annihilate her? Let's go back to why you would make a statement like that.
Well, the thing is, she just called her out on a bunch of policies.
Which policy?
She's just a fake.
Which policy?
I don't remember the debate. But all I do remember
okay, but hold on.
She was gone the next day.
Okay, so
and then she called her out on policy.
Okay, but hold on. Gabbard got less votes than Kamala Harris. That's number one. Number two, if you're going to tell me that Gabbard annihilated her and you can't name me one reason why, it's hard for me to put a picture of credibility to that, Al, with all due respect.
That's true. Yeah, okay, you got a good point.
Okay,
there.
so
let's move on. Is that all the people? All I can say is all the people who are knowledgeable. That's what they're saying, and I'm following them.
Who are those people? And who are those people that are so knowledgeable that you speak of?
Like Hannity,
So you think Sean Hannity is a credible source of information and he's not biased at all? Are you kidding me?
I think that
has Sean Hannity ever?
Well, I'm going to tell you why. Hannity I think is credible. He sticks to policy.
Oh, really? He does. So Sean. Okay, let's talk about that.
Policy, and that's what we're all doing.
The same guy who talked about Dominion voting machines, the same guy who talks about election integrity, the same guy who said in text messages that Donald Trump was full of crap, but never said anything to the same tune on his radio show or TV show.
What did he say?
About the election being stolen.
Hold on. I'm trying to somewhat support you on a point, which I do support him. When he said that Trump was full of crap, what was he talking about?
The 2020 election. He didn't believe Donald Trump's claims that the 2020 election was stolen. But yet when you see him on TV and radio, he talks about all this alleged election fraud and never criticizes Trump about it at all. That's the guy that you look to for information.
Okay. Well, when people talk about election fraud, they get they get confused about election fraud and what I would call making the laws bend your way to.
No, I don't think it's.
I don't believe. Now listen, I don't. Well, hold on, let me finish so you understand where I'm at. Okay, I don't believe that there was election fraud. I do believe though that the Democrats did change the laws to their favor because of COVID, and they maintained them that way. They could have.
Okay, so Al, here's the thing: if Harris wins, if Harris wins, your guy will not concede, and it won't have anything to do with COVID. It won't have anything to do with. No, it's not. No, it's not fine, Al. How could you be okay with that? If he doesn't win, it's going to have nothing to do with COVID. It's going to have nothing to do with election integrity or Dominion voting machines. The guy who you support will not concede in November if he loses a free and fair election, and I am shocked that doesn't bother people like you. Shocked. Why does that not bother you?
The thing is this. I don't have a plug to his brain. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what he's going to say. I don't have a crystal ball.
I do.
Okay?
I do. He will not concede.
He can have his reasons, but if he loses, I'm going to tell you, if he loses, it's going to be because of his big mouth. And all the Republicans were calling him out on that. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you something. I live over here by Timbers. And I went and a staunch Republican came up to me and he goes, I'd like to tie some kind of an electric monitor to Trump's crotch just to keep things clean so that every time he gets out of line, I'll shock him.
Yeah.
And that's my message to the Trump campaign.
Well,
you know what? Stick to policy,
what
man.
Makes you, but what,
try to do at least what Tulsi Gabbard did.
What makes you think that in 2024, that all of a sudden at the age of 78, that Donald Trump is going to be able to stick to policy. Delusions of grandeur, my friend. I cannot believe that
That's a possibility. That's a possibility. But you know what? If he really wants to win, he's got to get on the ball. Stick to policy. Now, my message to the Democratic Party, to the Democrats, is that when you compare the Republican track record of communities, of our safety, of our Republican communities to Democrat communities, here in Nevada, it's legal to have 28 grams of fentanyl, which is enough to kill 14,000 people, which the Democrats, Steve Yeager, and our Attorney General put in line in 2019 is outrageous, and they're supposed to be champions for the inner city and minority.
All right, well, if you want to blame Democrats for drug overdoses, why did I never hear you talk about the hundreds of thousands of people that died from drug overdoses when Donald Trump was also president of the United States? What I don't like, Al, are people that talk about addiction and certainly a bad drug problem that we've had in this country for a very long time and use it to score political points. The bottom line here.
Well, but let me tell you something. Here in the state of Nevada, Trump doesn't make the state laws. It was Aaron Ford and Steve Yeager, who are Democrats, who set it to 100 grams. I was just informed they got knocked down to 28 grams, but that's still enough to kill about 14,000 people.
Again,
14,000.
Again,
people.
It goes to
Is Trump responsible for that?
Okay, well, you're the same person that
here in Nevada.
You're the same person that says Joe Biden is responsible for the high gas prices and inflation when it's up all over the world.
Well, let's think about forget about the gas. At least you agree on the drug issue, that it's the Democrats that are putting drugs on the street.
No.
Homelessness just got reported here in Clark County that it's gone up by 1,000 over the last time over a year.
You can pick apart any statistic you want and blame Democrats. We also hear lies from the far right that violent crimes were up under Joe Biden, when we also know that's a lie and they are way down. So on one side of the coin, you want to blame Democrats for the drug epidemic we have in this country. But on the other side of things, when it comes to lowering crime and violent crime for whatever reasons, you don't want to give Democrats any credit. But listen, Al, I appreciate.
Well, there's a possibility that some of the violent crime did come down.
It's not a possibility.
Some of the people are saying there's arguments on both sides.
No.
Let me tell you what some of the Republicans are saying.
It's not a possibility.
They're saying violent crimes aren't reported.
Okay, well, guess what? Guess what? They're making an assumption that violent crime isn't reported when there's actually no evidence to back that up, and that is another right-wing talking point. You see, when I give you statistics that benefit Democrats in the Biden administration, you make excuses and say, well, they're not reporting all the crimes. But then when you make up a stat that I've never seen before in the state of Nevada, somehow blaming Democrats for every drug overdose in this state, those stats might be true. And you claim they are. But then when I give you a stat that benefits the Biden administration, you have your right-wing talking points, Al. I appreciate the phone call, but it is ridiculous. And I think of the many ridiculous things you said in that phone call, you give an ounce of credibility to Sean Hannity. That's your source of information? Wow. 702-221-7283. And again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283 is the number to call. All right, who are we going to next here? Why don't we go to, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have Angel, who's next up on the program. Hi, Angel. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hello, yes. I think we need to elect Harris because we need the border wide open so my cousin
All right,
Carlos
don't hang up the phone. Don't hang up the phone. Hey, you can stop. All right, pot him down. Now, I know you have a fake accent and you're calling into the show and you're trying to be funny. I didn't hang up on you. In fact, I would like to have a conversation with you. But the only way I'm going to keep you on the line is, number one, if you have an IQ over 20, which is debatable, we're going to prove it right now. Get rid of your stupid accent, okay? Let's actually have a real conversation. Don't interrupt. I'm giving you an opportunity. I'm going to assume you're a Trump supporter, and that's fine. I'm going to give you an opportunity to have a conversation with me, a serious conversation. Now, my guess is you probably are going to hang up the phone. And he did. Of course, he hung up the phone. You see, the MAGA supporters out there that call into the show, or some of them are not smart enough to have a debate, and they try to be funny. Sir, by the way, the borders are not wide open. That is a lie. And your orange turd leader is the reason why the border bill didn't pass. But you see, you're uneducated and you're not capable of having a conversation of any sort of intelligence at all. I gave you the opportunity. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, MAGA supporter or not. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to JD. JD is next up on PTL. Hello, JD.
Yeah, hello. I just wanted to check to see if the phone was working, and I didn't want to call in.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Let me lower my radio, please.
That's probably a good idea. I think it's not the phone. I think it's the fact that your radio is on. Is it?
I tried to call in Thursday and Friday and yesterday, and all I got was a constant busy, and I was
that's
checking
because
with.
That would be because we have a lot of people that listen to the show, and we have a lot of people that call in, and usually the lines are full. I know you're not used to that. If you listen to right-wing radio, there's a lot of open phone lines. The host.
I didn't call to listen to your argument.
Okay. Well, I didn't call to hear you complain about the busy phone lines. So why don't you talk about what you want to talk about and say something of substance, dude?
Hey, why don't you get your facts straight? Because all you're doing is lying.
Be specific. Okay, so be specific. What did I say that was a lie?
Well, first of all, your fellow Grant from Occupy.
No. I didn't ask you about Grant. Didn't ask you about Grant.
Well, I saw him.
No.
He lied.
No. You just said I'm a liar.
You agreed
JD, you said I lied about something. I didn't ask you about a guest I had.
You said the borders are not wide open.
Oh, so every crossing point at the border are wide open? There's no security or anything? Is that what you're claiming, JD? And you're saying I'm a liar? The borders are not wide open.
Now you're gonna rely on semantics. Yeah.
No. This is not semantics. JD.
Every foot of the border is not wide open.
JD. The border is not wide open. Now, if you have disagreements with me about how we can maybe have better security at the border, that's a fair conversation to have. So I will ask you again. At the start of this conversation, you said, quote, I'm a liar. You failed once. I'm giving you another opportunity. What have I said on this show that's a lie? The borders are not, and I just gave you my retort, which you agree with. The borders are not wide open in every spot. So now let's try number two. Let's try. Nice Tucker Carlson laugh. Go ahead. I'm giving you another opportunity. Go ahead. What did I lie about today? Go.
Well, Al was talking about Tulsi Gabbard and what she tore Harris apart in the presidential debate.
That's an opinion.
Harris. Well, if you let me finish the statement, then you can.
What did I? So I lied. Okay, so what did I lie?
Whereas Harris, when she was the DA in San Francisco, would not prosecute the Catholic priest who had improper relations with some of the altar boys because the law firm that represented the Catholic priest were big donors to her and helped her get elected to the DA.
Right.
And that's what Tulsi Gabbard destroyed her in the presidential debates on.
Okay, so first of all, that is not factually accurate, what you just said. But going back to what I said earlier.
How do you know it's not factual accurate? You didn't even know.
Do you have evidence? Excuse me. First of all, you said I was a liar. Al said, a caller said that Tulsi Gabbard, quote, destroyed Harris. I disagreed with him. That doesn't mean I'm a lie. JD, are you smart enough to understand that when you call somebody a liar, you have to have evidence to back it up? Hence, I won the 2020.
Unfortunately, Brian, you are not smart enough to debate me.
Well, guess what, JD? You're just a moron MAGA caller who calls into this show, who's a wannabe radio host, and I'm sorry, you can say that you're smarter than me, but you didn't make the case for your argument. You see, when you call me a liar, and then you can't come up with anything specific that I said that's a lie, that makes you an imbecile. Now, you can go ahead and vote for your 34-count felon rapist. But you see, I find it rich when people like you want to call me a liar, and then you can't come up with anything specifically that I said that's a lie, and yet you support Donald Trump, who lies every day. He still lies about the 2020 election. He lies and says 75% of the country supports him. Make no mistake about it, JD. Trump knows that you're supporting him because most people that support Donald Trump are like you. They're usually middle-aged white people that are uneducated, that don't have a college degree, that don't have a job, and call into radio shows like this and can't have a conversation and can't back on any of their opinions. Here's some advice for you, JD, and I'm sure you won't take it. When you call somebody a liar, have some evidence and an example to back it up. When somebody says the borders are wide open, that would suggest they're wide open. You see, when I say my door is wide open in my house, it's not shut. Does that not make sense to you, JD? There is border security. There's security at the border. They're not wide open. Can we do a better job at securing the border? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that the border is wide open, and I am not lying. Have a nice day, JD. Can I call you Slow JD? I'll call you that from now on. Okay, buddy? That's a nickname that I had for somebody else that I used to work with in the business. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the show. Let's go to Jimmy. Jimmy is next up on PTL. What's up, Jimmy?
Hey, how you doing, buddy? I'm Jimmy. I just want to say first and foremost, I'm digging the energy that you're giving. I'm a retired military Army combat veteran,
Wow.
Basically a combat medic as well.
Thank you for your service, my friend. You're a hero. Thank you.
I'm no hero, bro. I had to do what I had to do for my family, and basically I'm at a point where I'm at, and now I'm seeing for basically 20 years of my life. I'm originally from New York. I'm in Nevada right now, and what I've been noticing, what I've been witnessing is just a lot of what you're tagging upon, where basically when you ask these MAGA people direct questions, all they want to do is basically avoid every single thing that you directly want an answer for.
Right.
What I'm tired of is this whitewashing of lies, or basically the gaslighting. It's tiresome. And I just want to point one thing out as far as Mr. Trump is concerned. Now, I'm going to call him, and I'm going to call him Mr. Trump, because at one point, I remember growing up in New York in the 80s. Yeah, he was looked up after, but then you start seeing more and more of the stories and more of the stories. I mean, that man cannot walk in Manhattan by himself and be given a good hug. That man will be throwing tomatoes at in the street. The man cannot do anything in New York City by himself. That alone should tell you, those 40 people that will not vote for the man and work in his administration, that shows the signs of lack of leadership.
You are so right. And I want to add something to what you just said. I agree with everything you said. Why is it that there's nobody that has worked for Joe Biden, nobody that's been in his administration, nobody that has worked for the man? He's been decades and decades and decades as a politician. And yet we haven't seen any Democrats that spoke at the RNC convention saying they're voting for Donald Trump. We haven't seen any former employees of Joe Biden going on Fox News saying what a threat Joe Biden is to democracy. Why is it that we have all these people, the dozens and dozens and dozens of people that have either worked in Donald Trump's administration or even members of his own family that have come forward, talked about the danger that he presents to this country? Why is that?
I've come up with a couple of solutions on that. So basically, from COVID, one thing I've discovered on myself is the fact that either these people don't care, either they were tricked, they were bamboozled into this big lie of the election was stolen. But yeah, man, if I had to sit in front of a UCMJ, if I got in trouble in the military, and I got to sit down in a court martial, I better come up with some evidence to get out of this trouble.
Right. Right. No, listen.
60.
You're right.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to agree with you, my friend. And you know, here's what I want you to do, because you sound like a really smart guy. I want you to call back tomorrow. I want to get your thoughts on the debate tonight. That goes for everybody, by the way, especially you, my friend. Great phone call, and I appreciate you. And you are a hero. I appreciate your service to this country, as I would for anybody. As much as I despise Ron DeSantis personally, I would never disparage his service to this country. Same thing with J.D. Vance or anybody. The stolen valor stuff coming from the far right, I don't respect him because he was captured. They're suckers and losers. I respect anybody that serves this country honorably, period. I don't care whether you have an R or a D next to your name. But why is it the Republicans and always doing the Swift boat stuff? Remember what they did to John Kerry? Why is it always coming from the right? That's my question. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. And again, that number, if you do want to be a part of the conversation, it's 702-221-7283. Why don't we go to Alwi? I believe Alwi is next up on PTL. Hi, Alwi.
Hey, how you doing, man? How you doing, my friend?
Good.
Yes, I'm watching you right now, and I heard that going back and forth between you and JD, whoever that is. Crazy man.
Yeah. He called me a liar. You're a liar, but can you give me any examples of me lying? No, but you're a liar. Very
Yes,
intelligent.
yes,
Very
I had
intelligent.
all that. Yeah, I want to apologize on behalf of him, even though I don't know him. He's stupid. No, you're a liar. Anyway, I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
Yes. My first question is, what if Donald Trump loses the election and refuses to concede? What will happen?
Well, I think what will happen, unfortunately, whether he chooses to concede or not, which he won't, I hope there's not another January 6th type situation. I hope there's not another situation where there'll be violence. That's what I'm worried about. Alwie, I hope that doesn't happen. Go ahead. What was your second question?
Me too. My second question is, he's not a president right now, but he's calling for a government shutdown. Can he do that? Does he have authority to do that?
Well, if he becomes the president of the United States, he certainly does have the authority to do it. And then there's issues with Congress and the Senate. But unfortunately, if you become the president of the United States, in some cases, I say unfortunately, you have a lot of power. You have a lot of power to act. You have a lot of power not to act. Example, January 6th, when Donald Trump sat in the Oval Office for 4.5 hours watching television, eating his KFC, and he didn't do anything. Thank you for the phone call, my friend. I appreciate you. 702-221-7283. And again, the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. It's 702-221-7283. Let's go to Ricky. Ricky, what's going on?
Well, first off, Brian, I've been a long-time viewer. First time caller. I just want to say I agree with you 100% from a fellow Democrat to another.
Well, believe it or not, you might find this shocking, Ricky, but I am not a Democrat, believe it or not, even though I lean to the left on a lot of social issues.
I apologize.
That's okay.
I apologize.
I can understand why you would think that, because I am very anti-Donald Trump. But, I voted for 8 Republicans in the 2022 midterms. I didn't vote for Hillary or Obama. Certainly, I made a mistake in 2016. The reason why I didn't vote for Obama is because I would have been okay with Mitt Romney or John McCain, even though I was never a Sarah Palin person. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead, sir.
Well, first off, I apologize. Secondly,
that's okay.
I agree with you on many cases. I'm an anti-Trump voter myself because he picks on people no matter what. He picks on people who are disabled. He picks on people who are people of color. And it's wrong for what he's done to this great country. And I'm rooting for Kamala Harris in this. And I've been following your podcast and show on Twitter, and I got to say, a lot of respect.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I was wondering if I could be a guest on your show.
Well, I will certainly say, Ricky, that you have the platform here to call in anytime you like. You sound like a really nice guy, especially people that are respectful and people that want to share their opinions. Whether they agree or not is fine. Ricky, you're welcome to call back anytime, my friend, and I appreciate your call. If somebody calls in and they disagree with me, they're welcome to. But if you're going to call in and you're going to think I'm wrong about something, I will give you the platform to tell me why. But if you're going to call into the show and call me a liar, I get this every day, then you better come up with a reason why you think I'm a liar and come up with an example. Otherwise, I'm going to destroy you. I'm sorry. It just, I don't call people liars unless they are. When Donald Trump says he won the 2020 election, that is a lie. Okay? It's a blatant lie. I can give you many more examples, but when you call somebody a liar, you have to have facts to back up, a statement like that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Thank you for the call, Ricky. Let's go to Jose. Jose is next up on PTL. What's going on, Jose?
What's going on, Brian? How are you?
I'm doing good, Jose. What's on your mind?
I'm like the last couple of callers, man. I dig your vibe. I love it. I'm just like now seeing you. I think I seen a couple of shorts and then was like watching your YouTube and was like, wait a minute, this guy's live. So I hit him up and just telling you, listen, love your energy.
Thank you.
I'm like everyone else. I despise Trump. I see through him. I'm from the East Coast. I'm from up north. I know he was everything he is from.
Yeah. Where do you live?
From 89. Now I'm in Tampa, Florida.
Oh, okay. I'm from back east as well. I grew up
on the East Coast.
Gotcha.
Like between NY and Philly, stuff like that. So
yeah,
we knew about like him being a douchebag from when he was stiffing contractors and shit like that. So
yeah, well, people don't even know. People forget about even what he's done since he's been elected, right? Since he went into public office. people don't even realize his history as a businessman or lack thereof. Before he ever ran for office, the thousands of civil lawsuits that he lost, the
It's
many.
like, he's the most litigated person. Like, he's been litigated against most in history. I think it's something like 4,000 lawsuits.
And he was born with a
some
silver
absurd
spoon.
number like
And he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was given a $500 million company from his dad. And they make it sound like he's this great businessman.
And the entire NY portfolio. And for me, the biggest thing on the whole Republican side, MAGA, all that shit, is the racism. I'm dark-skinned immigrant, first generation. You know what I mean? So, like, it bothers me. I'm sorry, excuse me. It bothers me, you know what I'm saying? And, like, they never harp on that. Like, this guy's dad was arrested for punching a cop at a KKK rally.
So let me ask, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Because I know what my definition of Make America Great Again is. He wants this country to be white. What is your definition? When you hear a slogan, Make America Great Again, what does that mean to you?
To me, I'll tell you, it was the 2020 election, yo. I'll tell you one thing about Donald Trump that people don't give him credit for. He brought all eyes up front. Yeah. Everybody's watching politics.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You are right about that. But listen, I want people like you. I want people like you to be outspoken like you are. I want people like you, immigrants who come into this country that make something of themselves, intelligent people, well-spoken people. I want people like you out there speaking out. We need people like you out there speaking out. And the threat that Donald Trump is to democracy, the threat that Donald Trump is to immigrants coming into this country, legal or not. He does not want brown people coming into this country. He doesn't want people like you in this country. He doesn't want people like you in his administration, which is why in 2016, it was one of the most whitest administrations in the history of this country, period. The last 27 high-profile positions that Donald Trump has hired, they have all been white people. I'll let you all make your own conclusions on that, and I appreciate the call very much, sir. Thank you so much. Number to call, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you would like to be a part of the conversation, it's 702-221-7283. Let us go to Q. Q is next up on PTL. What's going on, Q?
Good afternoon, Brian. I just want to say thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Q. I appreciate you.
You are democracy to me.
Thank you. I appreciate you
to
saying
wake up every morning, put on that backpack, and try to help save democracy. Thank you so much.
Of course, I try to be honest on the show. It doesn't mean everybody is going to agree with me, but I try to point out facts and I try to base my opinion based on factual evidence. We can all disagree on policy and certain types of things, but I'm sorry. When people want to defend Donald Trump and curl up into a pretzel, it's when I stop listening. If people want to talk about policy, that's fine. But if you're going to say, well, I like some of Donald Trump's policies and that's why I'm going to vote for him, I stop listening. I'm at the point now where I'm over it. Q, I'm just over it.
Thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you, Q. I appreciate you. Yeah, go ahead.
So I live in Washington, D.C.,
mm-hmm.
and I saw firsthand what happened on January 6th. Donald Trump does not love America.
He only loves himself.
Donald Trump is a cost to America. I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
He's a cost to America.
Yeah.
Because he just loves himself.
Yeah.
Every policy that Donald Trump put out there throughout the course of his administration is just to benefit Donald Trump.
100%.
All MAGA people calling on this show, please just go look at all Donald Trump policy. There's no policy out there that Donald Trump rolled out that was meant to help the American people. It was all for Donald Trump, to benefit Donald Trump and his goons.
But you know what they would say? And Q, you are 150% correct. Well, they would say, well, wait a second. Donald Trump didn't accept his $250,000 a year salary because he just cares about you, the American people. When the guy made hundreds of millions of dollars in donations, he only cares about himself. Jared Kushner took $2.1 billion from the Saudis. His daughter, Ivanka, who he said if it wasn't my daughter, I would want to date her, called her voluptuous. She made over $600 million from the Chinese government. So listen, you're absolutely right, sir. And it's absurd. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Carl. Carl is next up on PTL. What's up, Carl?
Hey, Brian. Hope you're doing well. You sound good. Listen, this is very important. This is something for J.D. Vance. I'm opening a new restaurant. I thought I'd let you know, on the Strip. And I'm going to call it Vance's. It's going to be a barbecue restaurant. We're going to have barbecued kittens and puppies for dinner. So I thought you might drop by. And, the kittens are a little sweeter than the puppies, but, I think it'll work out.
Did you see Eric Swalwell this morning on the House floor? It's just hilarious. It's crazy the times that we are living in where they spread these lies. If you want to talk about lies, JD the caller, JD Vance tweeting out that in this community that these Haitian immigrants are eating your pets, and it's a debunked lie, and it's completely been debunked. Yet they don't apologize, they don't retract. That's what these people do, Carl.
Well, that's unfortunately, it's a psychological thing with them, unfortunately, that they can't accept the reality of what's true.
Yeah.
See, there's a difference between knowing what the truth is and not wanting to accept it.
Carl, can I ask you a question, if I may, Carl?
Yeah.
I don't think I've asked you this. If Donald Trump called Kamala Harris the N-word today on the debate stage, what percentage of his followers do you think would still support him?
I'd probably say between 75 and 80%.
You might be right on that.
Somewhere in that area.
You might be right.
Somewhere in that area.
And how sad...
Yeah, because they don't care.
And how sad, Carl... You're probably right, Carl. How sad is that we live in a country where you're saying 3 out of 4, to be modest, 3 out of 4 people would still support Trump, no matter what racist trope he puts on her tonight on a debate stage. Really sad, Carl. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the show. Let's go to Julie. Julie is next up on PTL. Hello, Julie.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Hey, doing good, Julie. Where are you calling from? I keep forgetting to ask people where they're calling from.
Well, I used to live in Vegas, but I'm now back in California.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for calling. Yep.
Yeah. You know what, Brian? I've been so bummed that so many people have not got together and formed a group against Trump. And this would be people who have a child, a relative, a friend of any type with disabilities.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump's nephew, of course, wrote that book.
Right.
And even it put in there how Trump told him to let his son die and then move to Florida.
Yep.
And then he's also stated, I guess, that all disabled people should just be left them alone to die.
That story's horrendous, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like I don't know how to go about it, but I just wish that it could be some huge group formed that all, people who have disability and children and just, I don't know.
Well, I think here's what I agree with you, but there are a lot of groups out there, starting with Republicans for Harris. I understand where you're coming from. We knew who Donald Trump was when it came to people who have disabilities. When Donald Trump mocked that reporter on a stage at a rally and used those hand gestures, we knew exactly who he was when he said he didn't respect John McCain because he was captured. We knew exactly who he was when he described Mexicans crossing the border as rapists and bad people, and I suppose some of them are good people, my dear. So I'm with you 150%. He attacks minorities. He attacks the handicapped. He attacks women based on looks and really attacks anybody that disagrees with him. He has nicknames for people. It is beneath the presidency. It's beneath being a decent human being, whether you're running for office or not. So I'm with you 150%. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Charles. Charles is next up on PTL. Hi, Charles. Where are you calling from?
Calling again from the Big Easy, my friend.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind, Charles?
Have a hurricane roll in. I just wanted to make a comment. I watch these guys. I watch you slaughter the talk show guys, and I watch you every day beat these people to death with empirical facts, because empirical facts is like kryptonite to these people. They're not used to dealing with them. And you'd think they would be a little bit better prepared when they call in on your show.
Yeah. Many of them are
tweeted
not.
back to you too. I guessed that 80% number on the question you put out there as a survey, so I was happy to hear the gentleman just called in and agreed with me. I'm not sure if you're in Mensa, but you seem to be pretty well informed, and I try to stay up with all kind of things myself.
Mm-hmm.
But kudos to you, my friend. Empirical facts rule and bullshit walks.
Well,
congratulations.
That's a great compliment, and that means a lot to me. And I really appreciate people like you recognizing that. And without people like you listening to this show and supporting what I do, I wouldn't be here. So thank you, sir, for that. And it's much appreciated, even though I will be honest and say I do prefer people that disagree with me that I get into it with, because I think it's better radio. But I do appreciate the compliment, and that means a lot, sir. Thank you so much. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Where are the MAGAs? After JD, I think they're scared. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Diane. Diane is next up on PTL. Hi, Diane, calling from New Mexico. What's up, Diane?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
Okay, hi. I'm actually calling from Albuquerque, New Mexico. You know, we have a lot of issues in our state, but we're also one of those few states that are very progressive in terms of women's reproductive rights and everything else. And I agree with you all the way, so I can't argue with you. I can pretend I'm MAGA, but I'm not.
Well, that's quite all right.
But, you know, I have so much to say, as we all do. And I'm a former elected official here in our Democratic Party. But you know, a couple of my things. I went through, this one's about reproductive rights.
Yeah.
And how it's absolutely intolerable and disgusting what is going on.
She has to hit that home tonight.
Fine.
She has to hit that home tonight. You know she's going to be asked about abortion, and Trump needs to get destroyed for what he did overturning Roe. That is such a wiffle ball topic. And it's a very important topic. But what I mean by that is she should be able to destroy him with this. The reason why abortion is illegal in some parts of this country is because of Donald Trump. Yes, the Supreme Court justices voted to overturn Roe, but Donald Trump is the reason why they even had the opportunity to do so. So I'm with you on that 100%. It's going to be a big topic tonight.
Yeah, like our governor, Cheryl Lewin Grisham, and our legislators. We just passed, I think I can't remember what it was, but 20 million, 200 million, I can't remember, 20 million, to literally open down in our southeastern part of our state, you know, that borders, you know, that third world country, to open actually an abortion clinic to pull doctors here because people are flooding into our state. But if she doesn't hone that in, I mean, we all know that the MAGA cult, they're going to vote for Trump either way. They're not going to be the audience.
Well, there's a base, right? I mean, there's a base, and I'm up against the clock. I appreciate your calling from Albuquerque. There's a base of, and I talk about this all the time, of Donald Trump supporters. I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they will still support him. There is a Republican named Royce White who just got elected into office, sadly, who's a former NBA player, who's a Republican. He said, literally, I'm quoting him, tonight, if Donald Trump drops trow and urinates on the stage, he will still support Donald Trump. How can you have a reasonable conversation? And that's a lawmaker, by the way. How could you have a reasonable conversation? I want to say this before I take a few more calls here. You see, when you listen to this show, I get calls from the left. I get calls from the right. I get all different types of people from all different colors in the crayon box. Plenty of people that are immigrants call into this show. I get women. I get men. I am humbled with the diversity, and for the most part, with the exception of a few people, the intelligence level of the people that listen to this show and the people that call into this show. And I am humbled by it. Because if you listen to right-wing radio, like Sean Hannity or, you know, Mark Levin, if you watch TV shows, but particularly we'll focus on radio now, the right-wing shows like Dan Bongino, they have no diversity in their listenership. Sure, they might have women and men that listen, but they're predominantly the same race. They certainly don't have a lot of immigrants that are calling into their show, or different colors, as I say, in the crayon box. This show has diversity, and it's welcomed. Those shows have a very specific look and base. just like Donald Trump's base, if you know where I'm going with that. And I am so humbled, and I love all the different types of people that call into this show with different backgrounds, and they are all welcome on this show anytime. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Joy, who's next up on PTL. Hi, Joy. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Los Angeles. I accidentally found you, and I think I'm in love.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I wish every woman would tell me that, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
What's on your mind today?
I'm one of the few people that have actually. I'm trying to turn off my radio.
Yep.
Not doing a good job. I'll go in the other room.
That's okay.
I'm one of the few people that have actually met Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
She spoke at my son's policeman's funeral. She was eloquent.
Mm-hmm.
She was kind.
Yep.
And I just want to know everybody to know what a caring person there is inside Kamala.
You know, I've said the same
Kamala.
thing about Joe Biden. One of Joe Biden's best qualities, in my opinion, was he's a man of empathy and a man of character and decency. And I would say the same about Kamala Harris. Like you, I had the opportunity briefly to meet Kamala Harris in Las Vegas, and I agree with everything you said. She has a wonderful family. She's a nice person. She's educated. She knows what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. She has a lot of wonderful personal traits and characteristics that I admire very much. And I admire her husband as well, just like I admire Tim Walz and his service to this country. These are decent, reasonable, good-hearted people, and character matters. And Republicans will use the excuse, oh, well, you're not going to vote for him because you don't like a few tweets. No, he's a liable sexual abuser who's had 25 women accuse him of sexual assault or rape, including his ex-wife. Donald Trump is a 34-count felon, and nobody can convince me that he has an ounce of decency in his entire obese body. So that's my opinion.
Nobody can convince me that.
Are you still there? I think we got a little delay. I appreciate the call, dear. Note to self. Yeah, are you still there? Go right ahead. Go ahead.
She spoke at my son's funeral. His name is Sean Diamond.
Oh, wow.
You can get it on, you can Google Sean Diamond and see the speech that she gave that touched I was broken. I was broken-hearted. And she reached out to me. And I don't remember very much about the funeral, I have to be honest, but I remember all the things that she said and that she hugged me. And if anybody doesn't vote for her over the, I don't know, sexist felon.
Can I ask you about your son, if you don't mind? And I'm so sorry.
No, I don't mind at all.
I'm so sorry for your loss. What happened to your son, if you don't mind me asking?
My son was shot in the back, and he was SWAT, and he was walking away from an encounter with a gang member, and he shot him in the back of the neck.
I am so sorry to hear that. That is so terrible. How did Kamala Harris reach out to you and your family? How did that happen?
She and the governor came to Sean's funeral. I didn't know how my son had touched so very many people. There were 3,000 people at his funeral.
And I bet I'll bet you that she didn't hold a press conference after the funeral. I bet you she
No, she did not.
Yeah,
She
I bet
gave
you
me a quick hug.
Yeah.
And then she disappeared.
I bet you she didn't put her thumbs up and smile next to your son's grave either. I bet she didn't do that, did she?
No, she
Yeah.
did not.
Yeah, I bet you she didn't turn it into a campaign rally. She didn't do that, did she?
Not at all.
No, because a decent, and again, I'm so sorry for your loss, dear. A decent human being does what Harris did. She shows up, she shows empathy, she gives you a hug, and she makes some remarks. And I love that story. I'm so saddened by what happened to your son. It's terrible. But it makes me feel good to at least know, and I'm sure it helped you a little bit in the grieving process, knowing that people care. People that maybe didn't even know your son personally, they care. Somebody like Harris shows up and gives you a hug because she cares. And she didn't do it to get votes. She didn't do it because she wanted the world to see that she was there. She did it because she's a decent human being, and I'm sure you would agree with that.
Absolutely. And I'm privileged to vote for her.
Yeah. Well, you know what, dear? Again, I'm so sorry for your loss, but I'm so glad that you found this show. You call back anytime. I'd like to learn a little bit more about your son. And I talk about gun violence on this show all the time. And my heart goes out to you and your family. And I really do appreciate you calling in. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. That is a touching story. She sounds like a very nice lady, and it breaks my heart that some SOB decided to execute her son. But the fact that Harris showed up to that funeral, there was no press conference, as she said. There was no photo op. Nobody was smiling and a thumbs up on her son's grave. No. Harris did what any decent human being would do, whether you're in public office or not. Show up. The family lets you say a couple words, show condolences, show empathy for the family. That's one of the main reasons why I'm voting for Kamala Harris, because she's a woman with a moral compass and she is decent. And we need decency in the White House. We need our leaders to be decent people. We can disagree on policy. I don't agree with everything that Harris has done. I don't agree with every policy put forth from the far left. I agree with Democrats a lot more than Republicans these days when it comes to policy. I won't shy away from that opinion. But a moral compass and decency, that matters. That matters. Thank you so much for the phone call, and I am going to post that interview on social media because that was very touching. Thank you, dear. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. We have Kim, who's calling in from OKC. What's going on, Kim? How you doing?
Hi, do I need to turn down my phone?
I think you're good. Go right ahead.
Okay, well, okay, I think I'm like a unicorn in Oklahoma City. I must be one of the few older white women who is not a Republican.
Hey, that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, I am so stoked about this debate. But
I'll tell you,
realize
yeah, go ahead.
that it's not the end-all, be-all.
No, it's
Your
not.
vote counts more than you can know. I hope everyone understands that. Get out and vote.
It's not the end-all, be-all.
Who you're voting for.
You're right. It's not the end-all, be-all. I'll tell you this. I'm more excited to watch this debate tonight than any Raiders game this year. I'll tell you that. But that's another story for another show. But you're right.
I hear you.
I get your point. It's not the end-all, be-all. No matter what happens tonight, we know it's not going to be the sort of disaster that took place a couple months ago with Joe Biden. And all due respect to Joe Biden, he's a great man. He's been a great president. That was a disaster. That's not going to happen.
Agree.
That's not going to happen tonight. Harris is well-versed. She's very intelligent. She's a former prosecutor. She knows how to debate. How do we know that? We've seen her debate Mike Pence. That's stiff. We saw her destroy Mike Pence. We actually saw her. I thought she did a pretty good job against Joe Biden when they debated. These people on the right that say Gabbard destroyed her.
I remember that.
These people on the right that say Tulsi Gabbard destroyed her. It's an absolute joke. These are the same people that say,
gag me.
Yeah, these are the same people that'll say Donald Trump destroyed Joe Biden back in 2019, 2020. I mean, you can't, these people have no ounce of credibility. Well, Kim, I'll say this. I'm glad that there are people like you out there that don't fit the usual demo of the people that support Donald Trump. You need to go to I know you're going to go to the ballot box in November, as will I. Let's do our job, Kim. And I look forward to hearing you maybe call tomorrow and let me know what you think about this debate. I used to be an OK City Thunder fan until they dismantled that team. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Who are we going to next year? Let's go to Jillian. Is that correct? Hi, Jillian. Thanks for calling in. Where are you calling from?
Hi, Brian. I'm calling from Los Angeles, and I'm in a very blue area here, and the surrounding areas are very blue.
Yep.
And a few of us at work, basically, and my whole family, we watch you and love you.
Oh, well, thank you.
We listen to you on the radio.
That means
and
a lot.
Also watch your, you're very welcome, and we watch your YouTube channel all the time. My question is this. We are trying to wrap our heads around how many police officers love Trump.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where when we see a police officer stopping someone or arresting someone or whatever,
yeah,
it's almost like, just stop. You're trying to enforce the law. You're trying to do whatever.
Yeah.
But then you turn around and vote for Trump. So I can't take you
I want to get your, I agree with you. I want to get your thoughts on this. So I am pro-police and I'm pro-BLM. What I mean by that is I'm not pro-BLM, the organization of 7 or 8 people. I'm pro the movement. When I say I'm pro-police, I'd like to think that the majority of police officers are heroes and they do a good job, but we also need to call out bad police. Example, the Tyreek Hill arrest. Now, Tyreek, I don't know if you watched that, the Miami Dolphins player. There's videos circulating all over social media. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? If you're not, that's okay.
Yes, I saw it yesterday.
Okay, you
I
are.
saw it
Okay.
yesterday.
Okay, good. So you know what I'm talking about. So Tyreek Hill, a black man. Listen, could he have handled this situation a little bit better? Probably. But with that being said, just give him the ticket and let him go on. There was a police officer that drags him by his hair out of the car. He's handcuffed, and the guy puts him in a chokehold. That one officer deserves to go to jail for assault. But the problem I have when there are some bad cops out there, and there are bad cops out there, whether it's racism or not, if you're a bad cop and you do a bad thing, and I believe that was horrible, there needs to be accountability. And it's very rare in policing these days where police officers are held to account. It does happen sometimes. That's why sometimes people have a lack of trust in police. And listen, I'm a white guy, right? Doesn't come more white than me. I'm 40. I don't know what it's like to be pulled over because of the color of my skin. I don't know what it's like to be followed in an electronics store because people think I'm going to steal something, right? So I listen to people that don't look like me. And while, again, Tyreek Hill's not completely innocent, okay? He didn't necessarily cooperate, but at the same time, what's the worst thing the guy did? It took him 5 seconds to roll down his window again. That's really the worst thing he did. It's totally unacceptable. Yeah. They should have never dragged him out of the car. They certainly shouldn't have choked him. And that's how I feel about that.
I mean, when I saw that video yesterday and whatever, it was just disgusting. It was just gross. It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, these cops are the same ones that love Trump.
Isn't it interesting? January 6th, they like to, the Republican Party, the MAGA Republicans particularly, want to say they're pro blue. When I mean that, I mean police, not pro Democrat. And yet on January 6th to this day, Donald Trump calls those people who attacked police officers with their own batons, took fingers off, beat police officers, sprayed police officers with bear spray. He calls those people, many of them who are still in jail, he calls them hostages and he calls them patriots. How can anybody in law enforcement support a man who talks like that?
Well, what really gets me too, and I'm not going to name the show, but there used to be a police show on. And then it was moved to a whatever cable channel. It was a popular police show every Friday and Saturday. I think you know which one I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And there was a certain sheriff on that show that was in charge of a very large county in one of the states.
Yeah.
And every single episode he was in, they even had him as a guest on the panel. Mm. He would make it clear how he's enforcing the law. He can't stand criminals. He can't stand this. He can't stand that.
Yeah.
That was his thing. Well, it was maybe about a year after that show went off. I see all these pictures of him standing there posing with Trump, shaking his hand and the whole bit.
It's disgusting.
And he's a big Trumper.
Well,
and on his Instagram, he's a big Trumper.
Again,
and I'm thinking, what are you talking about?
And again, it goes back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, which is there's always going to be a percentage of people in any profession that are going to support Donald Trump. The overwhelming majority of police officers, I don't believe they support Donald Trump. The overwhelming majority of firefighters, the overwhelming majority of minorities. How do we know this? Well, based on what we know of 2016, Trump lost the popular vote to Hillary. He got less than 15% of the black vote. In 2020, Trump lost the popular vote terribly. And he's going to lose the popular vote again in 2024. I'd be shocked if he got any more than like 13% of the black vote. Folks, there's a reason for that. Thank you so much for the phone call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to David. David is next up on PTL. Hi, David. Where are you calling from?
Hi, Brian, from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Well, thank you so much for calling. My favorite band is out of York, Pennsylvania. If you can name it, I'd be very impressed.
I can't, but I was in York today, so maybe that is I'll meet you in the middle.
Look it up. The band Live. They were a big band in the early 90s. They're from York. Anyway, I digress. Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Well, I've heard you say a couple times in this exact episode how you keep saying that Tulsi didn't effectively eviscerate Harris during the 2020 debate. I mean, I don't know what debate you watched in 2020, but Tulsi got the entire audience to start laughing because Harris had nothing to say to Tulsi. When Tulsi talked about how Harris was, jailing all these people for marijuana abuse and then laughing about it. And Harris then gives the response, well, I'm proud of my record, like the kind of generic political response.
Yeah. So here's
Look, I'm not saying that any of this matters today,
right?
But I mean, look, whether you're left or right, I mean, how can you even you, but how can you say that she didn't?
Sure, I'll answer that. So first of all, if she killed it like you claim, she would have gotten more votes than Kamala Harris. She didn't. That's number one. Number two, hold on.
No impact.
Hold on. Let me finish.
Yeah.
That's just one. Number two, I don't care whether some people in the crowd are laughing. They could have been Gabbard donors. Who knows who they were? What I can tell you is even at a CNN town hall, when Donald Trump, days after the jury in the E. Jean Carroll case found that he was a liable sexual abuser, Donald Trump at a CNN town hall decided to continue to defame her. And you know what happened? Half the people in that crowd started laughing. So I don't look at whether the crowd laughs or not to decide whether somebody desecrated somebody else or not. Now, I think Gabbard has no credibility at all. I respect her service to this country, but the crazy things that she says on a daily basis, including to this day, not calling out Assad, filling in for Tucker Carlson, and the ludicrous conspiracy theories about the 2020 election and the deep state. So if you want to take one soundbite, with all due respect, of a debate and use it because you claim, and you said it, not me, that the crowd was laughing, and I should take that as credit. Okay, well, who cares? The crowd laughed at a CNN town hall.
Well, in terms of winning a debate, things like that matter.
Well, if she
whether
did
you like it or not,
if she trounced her, then why is it that Harris got more votes than her?
Because Harris was just more popular. That doesn't mean that she didn't lose the debate. You can be 10 times more popular than somebody and still lose.
So Joe Biden was so Joe Biden was more popular than Donald Trump in 2020.
Well, he seems to be. I mean, he won.
Joe Biden was not. Okay, here's where I disagree with you. With all due respect, sir, Joe Biden was not more.
He won the popular vote. He was more popular.
Okay, well, when you use the term popular, that doesn't necessarily mean what you're saying. Here's what I mean by that, sir. So in 2020, my vote was not because I think Joe Biden is more popular. It was an anti-Donald Trump vote. Most Democrats do not like Tulsi Gabbard, okay? She's not a very likable person.
Agreed.
There are some people on the right that like her because she's anti-Democrat and, she fills in for Tucker. So I think when you use the term popular, it doesn't necessarily mean. I didn't vote for Biden because I loved Joe. I certainly have respect for him. It was an anti-Donald Trump vote. And there's going to be a lot of people like me in November that are going to be voting for Harris, not because we think Harris is, we don't think she's a bad person. I have a lot of respect for Harris, but it's an anti-Donald Trump vote. That's all I'm saying. And you can, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Well, here's the thing. Again, I'm 50-50 on who's going to win this election. I think a lot of people are. I don't think that Trump is as unpopular now as he was in 2020. He looked terrible when he debated Biden because he kept interrupting him. He really looked terrible. Now, I think that now people, 4 years later, they're not going to look at him as unfavorably, especially because tonight's debate, apparently they're going to do what they did, with Biden a month or two ago. They're going to turn the mics off, which I find to be hysterical because that works in Trump's favor because it stops him from making a fool of himself.
Yeah, so the Harris campaign wanted the mics turned on. Number one. Number two,
of course,
I respectfully disagree with you. Again, we're using the term popularity again. Back in 2020, correct me if I'm wrong, but Donald Trump wasn't a liable sexual abuser. Now, to some people that might not matter, but I think to some voters they do. You have a plethora of Republicans, including the Cheneys, including Republicans for Harris. There are people like the Jeff Duncans, the Adam Kinzingers, and people that spoke at the DNC. They weren't speaking in the virtual DNC.
You mean milquetoast Republicans?
Well, in your opinion, they're milquetoast. In your opinion, they're milquetoast Republicans. In my opinion, they're Republicans who put America first before their own party. I don't know why you would call somebody milquetoast like a Jeff Duncan, whose own family, by the way, was threatened with death threats because of Donald Trump.
Adam Kinzinger. I mean, he's just a milquetoast Republican, and I don't care if he is. I'm really not.
Why? Tell me why. Why do you say that?
Why? What?
Why is he a milquetoast?
Why do I say what? That he's a milquetoast?
Yeah. Why?
Well, because consistently just agrees with Democrats on everything.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
No, he doesn't agree with them on policy. He doesn't agree with them on gun control. He doesn't agree with them on taxes. And he said time and time again, even at the DNC, he doesn't necessarily agree with a lot of the things that Kamala Harris stands for when it comes to policy. But you know, the one thing that he does stand for? Our democracy. And to many of these Republicans out there that put the country first before their party, that is the opposite of being a milquetoast. If you want to talk about milquetoast, then why don't you talk about Kayleigh McEnany? Donald Trump called her milquetoast. I appreciate the call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Steve. Steve is next. What's up, Steve?
Hi, how you doing, Brian?
Hey, good.
I was referred to you through a friend who listens to your show. So I'm a little new to you, but I sort of like the way you think, and you're quick on your feet.
Thank you.
There's so much going on, and it really occurred to me after the torch was handed to Kamala from Joe that I was like, wait a second, okay, the race is still too close. I have to do something to try to help push it over the edge to help. I'm not going to be the only person to do it. So I'm a writer, director, producer, so I know how to get my cameraman and an intern together. And go to. I live in LA, but maybe go to Orange County, where there's a lot of MAGAs, or Nevada or Arizona. I have a GoFundMe page. I'm trying to get some money together for equipment and for security assistance. My goal is to go somewhere to an event, catch the MAGAs with the red hats and the big sunglasses, get somebody to interview, have them sign the release, talk to them about things that we all talk about, and catch them off guard, not knowing what they're talking about, and having the footage roll and having their jaw sort of drop and asking them, like, well, if this is this with Trump or whatever, or Kamala.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't
to finish the thought. So I want to catch them in a really dopey, uninformed moment.
Well,
here's
what I can tell you. I think that's a good idea. That's what I try to do on the radio every day. I get these MAGA Republicans on this show literally on a daily basis almost, and I try to get them in gotcha moments to expose them. Not literally, of course. We don't want to see that. Shoot me an email, and we'll talk more about that. 702-221-7283, last call of the day. Let's go to Terry. Hi, Terry. Thanks for calling in. Where are you calling from?
Terry?
Hi, Terry. Go right ahead.
Yeah. How you doing? Yeah, I'm calling you from Maine. I don't know if you know where Maine is. I'm sure you do.
I am from the East Coast. I damn well do, and I love the food you guys got there. I'll tell you that.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I appreciate your show. You do a very good job.
Thank you.
And I hate to disappoint you, but I'm not a Trump supporter, so I can't.
You're not disappointing me. Yeah, I'll be honest. It's good to end on a good note, so that's okay. Go ahead.
I actually have a quick question because I know your time related.
Yeah.
Here. How do they allow a convicted felon to be so close to a sitting vice president, like even at the debate?
So I agree. It's a really good question, and I'm up against the clock here, my friend, but here's the best way I'll answer that. If Donald Trump, and nobody knew who he was, walked into a McDonald's with all of his orange makeup and decided to fill out a resume, they would ask him if he's a convicted felon on the resume, and they probably wouldn't hire him. Donald Trump probably couldn't get a job at a fast food restaurant with his history. And you're absolutely right. The fact that he is even allowed to run for office or even be anywhere near Kamala Harris is a disgrace to this country. And we need to change some laws. If you're a convicted felon, not only should you not be allowed to vote, you certainly shouldn't be allowed to run for office. But yet, you make a good point, and it's a very good question, sir. The laws in this country need to change. We need to get rid of the Electoral College. It should be all about popular vote. We should not allow felons to run for any office. It could be an assemblyman or an assemblywoman or the president. Doesn't matter. So that's the best way I can answer that. It's a joke. And I appreciate your call and calling all the way out there in Maine. Some of the best seafood in the world is in Maine. I'll say that. All right. Please support my friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Great promotions lined up this month, as they do every single month. And I'll tell you this, I was in there the other day, best lunch of my life, man. The chicken Alfredo was top notch, some of the best. Great bartenders, great food, great atmosphere, great place to watch a game and just chill and relax and and gamble a little bit, please check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Before I let you go, I also want to ask all of you to check out my website. It's pushingthelimits.live. First of all, support what I do. If you want to support what I do, we've had a lot of new callers today. People say they love the show. They're hooked on it. I appreciate all of you. How can you help us? We are an independently owned show. What does that mean? We're like public radio. We rely on people like you, good people like yourself. So you go on the website, pushingthelimits.live. We sell merchandise up there, shirts, hats, you name it, we sell it. But if you don't want to buy merchandise, that's okay too. You can go on the front page there and you'll see a donate button. Could be $5, $10, or $20, whatever you can afford. We appreciate it. Check it out, pushingthelimits.live. We are going to have all the coverage from the presidential debate tonight, tomorrow on the show. We'll have the audio, we'll have the guest, and we will be hearing from you. That's why this is the most interactive show around. And, you know, we prove it once again today. People calling from all over the country, all different types of people. That's the way I want it to stay, and I'll always have it that way. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you for Justin for producing the show, and we'll be back at it tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a great day, everybody.